In the village of Amake, a humble community nestled among lush green hills, there lived twin sisters named Adana and Amarachi. Although identical in face and form, their hearts could not have been more different. Adana was kind-hearted and gentle, always quick to help others and heed the wisdom of her elders. Amarachi, on the other hand, was often consumed by envy, her heart clouded by jealousy toward her own twin. Growing up, their parents, Mama Ifioma and Papa Ikin, tried to raise them with love and ancestral wisdom. An old saying their father often repeated was, "When a bird perches on the fence shakes and the bird shakes. One who causes others trouble only causes trouble for herself." Adana listened and lived by such counsel, but Amarachi would merely roll her eyes, feeling that she was always in her sister's shadow. Not long ago, Amarachi's jealousy had nearly shattered their family's peace. Adana had a suitor and dear friend named Chaik, a hard-working young farmer from the next village. Seeing Adana happy sparked bitterness in Amarachi's chest. In secret, Amarachi plotted to steal Chaik's affection, resorting to lies and flattery. For a time, her schemes sowed confusion and heartbreak. Chaik grew distant from Adana, and whispers spread through Amake. Though the truth eventually came out and Chaik apologized, the damage was done. Chaik left the village in shame and sorrow, and Adana's tender heart was left quietly aching. She forgave her twin, for Adana's nature was to forgive, but a shadow fell between the sisters. The village elders shook their heads at Amarachi's actions, and Papa Ikin sternly warned her never to let envy drive her again. Now, a season later, a new excitement filled the air of Amake. News came that the Igui, the village king, had announced his son, the prince, was of age and searching for a wife. The prince had been away for many years. Some said he trained with his mother's kinsmen in a distant land. Others whispered he had been studying leadership and warcraft. Few villagers knew his face now that he was grown, but all knew his name, Prince Obinna, son of Igui Akpara of Amake. Obinna was a name that carried nobility and promise, meaning father's heart. The Igui's proclamation set the village abuzz. Maidens whispered under the moonlight about the handsome prince of Amake. Mothers secretly harbored hopes that their daughter might catch the royal eye. Even Amarachi, upon hearing the news at the village well, clenched the rope of her water pot with determination. She imagined the wealth and admiration she would gain if she became the prince's wife. Her jealousy of Adana turned into a new ambition. Amarachi wanted to be a princess. Adana, however, paid little mind to the gossip of the prince's search. She was content with her simple life, helping Mama Ifioma cook and harvest yams, fetching water from the stream, and weaving mats to sell at the market. After the heartbreak with Chaik, Adana kept her dreams modest and her heart guarded. She only prayed for peace in her family and perhaps, one day, a love that was true and kind. Little did she know, fate and the ancestors were quietly listening, preparing to answer Adana's prayers in a most unexpected way. Her own twin. One bright morning, Adana balanced a clay pot on her head and walked the narrow footpath towards Udala Stream, named after the wild Udala fruit trees that grew along its banks. The air was cool and filled with the sounds of chirping weaver birds. Adana hummed a gentle folk song as she walked, the tune drifting through the tall grasses. At this early hour, she expected to be alone at the water, enjoying a few moments of peace. Down by the stream's edge, a young man stood partially hidden by reeds, filling his own gourd with water. He was dressed in a simple brown tunic and had a woven hat slung on his back. At first glance, he looked like any other traveler or perhaps a laborer. Adana would not have paid him much attention, but as she stepped onto the riverbank, a sandy patch gave way under her foot. She stumbled with a small cry, and the heavy clay water pot began to tip. Before the pot could crash to the ground, the stranger leapt forward with swift grace and caught it. Water splashed around their feet as together they steadied the pot. "Be careful, Enani, sister," the young man said kindly. "These pots have a mind of their own." Adana let out a shaky breath and managed a grateful smile. "Thank you so much. I didn't expect anyone else here." She tilted her head curiously. Up close, she noticed the man's striking features. Warm, intelligent eyes the color of rich earth, and a strong but gentle demeanor. He certainly didn't look like a typical farmer or servant. There was something noble in the way he carried himself, despite his plain clothes. "I'm sorry if I startled you," the stranger replied. My name is Obi. He chose the nickname easily for it was part of his given name. Adana did not realize this was short for Obinna, the very prince her village buzzed about. I was traveling through and stopped to get water. Are you all right? He asked, concern in his voice. Yes, I'm all right, Adana said as she adjusted the pot. A few locks of her hair had fallen loose and she brushed them back from her face. I'm Adana. That's a lovely name, Obi said with a friendly smile. Adana, father's daughter, is it not? Your father must be very proud. Adana blushed slightly at the compliment and nodded. He is, I hope. He calls me and my twin sister the jewels of his life. At the mention of her twin, Obi raised an eyebrow in surprise, but Adana quickly added with a wry smile, though I assure you only one of us behaves like a jewel most days. I'm usually fetching water while my sister still sleeps. Obi chuckled. Then the village is lucky to have your industry. He took the heavy pot from her, effortlessly lifting it. May I help you fill this? The stream can be slippery. Together they walked to the water's edge. Adana noticed how Obi rolled up his trousers and stepped into the cool stream to fill the pot carefully, as though it were no trouble at all. Most young men she knew would rather let a girl struggle than wade in and risk wetting their clothes, but Obi didn't hesitate. Adana found herself studying his face as he worked. There was a gentleness there and a hint of something thoughtful in his eyes, as if he carried unspoken responsibilities. As he hefted the now full water pot back into Adana's arms, their eyes met. A spark of connection passed between them like a sunbeam breaking through clouds. Adana's heart fluttered in a way it hadn't in a long time. She thanked him softly. You're very kind. Are you new to Amake? I don't think I've seen you before. Obi paused, aware that most villagers wouldn't recognize him after years away, especially dressed as he was. He decided on half a truth. I've been away a long time. I only just returned to this region. I'm staying with relatives for a while. Adana sensed there was more to his story, but she didn't pry. Villagers in their land often traveled to stay with kin in other towns, especially if they were learning a trade. Instead she offered, well, I hope Amake welcomes you well. We have a saying here, may your path be clear and your heart be glad. Ibalachi? Have you greeted the morning? He responded in Igbo, using a traditional greeting with a smile. He had an educated accent, one that hinted at upbringing among people of status. Adana was a bit surprised to hear the formal words from someone she thought a common traveler. She answered politely in kind, and both laughed lightly, the moment charged with a strange familiarity, as if they had known each other before. Before they parted, Obi asked, Will I see you here again, Adana? Perhaps tomorrow morning by the stream? His tone was hopeful. Adana realized she very much wanted to see him again. Still, she answered modestly, I come to fetch water every morning if the weather is good. She balanced the pot on her head, hands steadying it at the sides. Safe travels, Obi. And a good day to you, Adana, the young man replied, giving a small bow of respect that made Adana giggle. No young man in the village bowed so courteously. As she walked back up the path, Adana felt the weight of the water pot on her head lighten, as if the joy blooming in her heart made everything easier to bear. Neither of them spoke of who they truly were, a village maiden and a disguised prince, but a quiet, secret romance had begun in the most humble of ways. Over the next several weeks, Adana and Obi met frequently by the stream in the early mornings. What began as chance became intention. Adana would finish her dawn chores a bit quickly and slip away, while Obi, Prince Obinna in truth, would rise before the palace servants and sneak out of the royal compound dressed in simple clothes. By the babbling stream, under the shade of Udala trees, their friendship blossomed. Adana learned that Obi was indeed staying with relatives, though she didn't realize his relatives were the royal family itself. He spoke of traveling through different villages and learning many things, how other people farmed, how they held their markets, the songs their children sang. My father wanted me to see the world beyond our village before settling down, Obi explained one morning as he helped Adana gather ripe mangoes that had fallen near the water. Adana found herself opening up about her own life, her hopes, her fears, and her family. One golden afternoon, Adana even brought Obi to a secret spot a short walk from the stream, a large udu drum tree that had fallen years ago and was now overgrown with flowers. It was her favorite thinking place. They sat on the fallen log, and Obi gently asked her why her eyes sometimes held sadness. Moved by his kindness, Adana spoke quietly of her past, how her twin sister Amarachi's jealousy had driven away Chaik, whom Adana once cared for. She admitted the hurt of that betrayal. It's hard when someone you love, someone who shares your face, Does such a thing, she said, voice trembling slightly. I worry for Amarachi. Her heart is restless, always wanting what I have even if she doesn't truly want the thing itself. I forgave her, but it's never been the same between us. Obi listened intently, his brow furrowing. He gently placed a comforting hand over hers. You have a generous heart to forgive, Adana. Not everyone could. Your sister is fortunate even if she doesn't realize it. He hesitated, then added softly, in the stories my mother told me, twins are two halves of one soul. When they love each other, nothing can break them. But when they fight, nothing can break them more painfully. I hope you and Amarachi find your way back to that bond. Adana offered a sad smile. I hope so too. She looked into Obi's kind eyes and found herself asking, and what of you? Do you have any siblings? Obi's face clouded just a touch. He was quiet for a moment, gazing at the distance where the red-orange sun was beginning to dip. No, I'm an only son, he said simply. It has its own burdens. I sometimes wonder what it would be like to have a brother or sister, to share the weight of life's expectations. He nearly said the crown's expectations, but caught himself. The wind rustled the leaves overhead as he went on. That's partly why I travel. When everyone knows who you are at home, it can be hard to be yourself. Away, I can breathe and just be Obi, a simple man helping a lovely girl carry water. He grinned, lightening the mood. Adana laughed gently. And I can just be Adana, not the twin who must patch every quarrel. In that moment she realized how easy it was with Obi. He saw her for herself. A warm feeling fluttered in her chest again. Their connection deepened with each meeting. Sometimes they exchanged small gifts. Adana wove a tiny bracelet from colorful fibers for Obi's wrist, and in return Obi carved a wooden pendant in the shape of a nduru, a peace dove, and gave it to her. For peace and for remembrance, he said as he tied the leather string of the pendant gently around Adana's neck one dawn. His fingers lingered a moment on the nape of her neck, and Adana's cheeks warmed. They even created their own little world of secrets. If they passed each other in the village, for Obi had started to wander the marketplace by day to learn more of his future subjects, they would not openly acknowledge each other beyond a polite nod. But later, by the stream, they would laugh about nearly being caught. Once, a group of young women at the market had surrounded Obi, giggling and flirting, not knowing they were pestering the prince himself. Adana had watched from her mat-weaving stall, amused but also feeling an unfamiliar twinge of jealousy in her belly. She confessed it playfully that evening. It seems jealousy visits every heart at times, she said, even mine, when I saw those girls practically swooning over you by the tomato stand. Obi laughed in surprise. You have nothing to worry about. I could only think how silly they'd act if they knew, well, if they knew I was meeting you by the stream later. He grew earnest and touched Adana's chin gently. Truly, you are the one who has captured my heart, Adana. Those words stayed with Adana, glowing inside her. Love was blossoming, pure and secret. In the midst of this joy, neither of them noticed a pair of watchful eyes following them one morning. Behind the thick trunk of an ogilasai tree near the stream, Amarachi stood listening, her nails digging into the bark as she realized Adana had found another suitor. Perhaps an even better one. Amarachi's suspicion had been aroused by Adana's recent happiness. She noticed her twin's secret smiles, the way Adana slipped out at dawn, and how a wooden dove pendant now hung around her neck. Something was amiss. One morning, Amarachi quietly trailed Adana from their compound, careful to remain unseen. Through the misty dawn, she followed at a distance until she saw her sister meeting a young man by the stream. Amarachi's eyes widened as she watched them talk and laugh by the water. Adana's face glowed with a joy Amarachi hadn't seen in a long time, since before Chaik left. The stranger was handsome and carried himself with an easy confidence. Amarachi felt a surge of envy so sharp it took her breath. How can this be? She thought. Adana has found someone new, and he looks even more impressive than Chaik. Slipping away before they could spot her, Amarachi returned home with her mind racing. By the time Adana returned with water, Amarachi was calmly sweeping the yard, pretending nothing was amiss. But inside, a plan was already forming. She had to know more about this man. More importantly, she had to find a way to turn his attention away from Adana and toward herself. Old habits die hard. Amarachi's heart, still green with jealousy, could not bear to see her twin happy in love while she remained alone. Amarachi began to spy on the secret couple. She noted their routine and even dared to engineer a meeting. One evening she approached the stream alone, timing it at dusk when Adana usually didn't go. Sure enough, she found Obi sitting on the fallen log where he and Adana often chatted. He rose in surprise when he saw Amarachi, thinking at first it was Adana, so uncanny was the resemblance in the dim light. But as she stepped closer, he sensed something was off. This twin's eyes were hard, her smile too sly. "Oh, you startled me, Ad," he began, then stopped, realizing. "You must be Amarachi." Obi had heard enough from Adana to guess. He kept his tone polite, but his guard was up. She smiled sweetly in a practiced way. "Yes, I am Amarachi. You must be Obi." She let his alias roll off her tongue. In truth, Amarachi had her own suspicions about his true identity. Gossip in the market spoke of a well-spoken stranger seen around, and the prince's name Obina was whispered. Could Adana's secret love possibly be the prince? Amarachi's heart pounded at the thought. If it were true and if she could win him, she'd have everything she ever wanted: status, admiration, and to finally outshine Adana. Obi nodded cautiously. "Adana has mentioned you." "All good things, I hope," Amarachi laughed. Her laughter was a bit too high-pitched, and Obi noticed it lacked the genuine warmth of Adana's. "She loves you dearly," he replied, choosing his words with care. Amarachi's smile tightened at that, but she quickly masked it. She stepped closer, tilting her head. "You know, Obi, you should come by our compound one day. My parents would be delighted to meet a friend of Adana's. We could host you for dinner. It must be lonely being new in the village and staying with relatives." She watched his face for a reaction, hinting that she suspected his relatives might be more prominent than he let on. Obi gave a polite but non-committal answer. "That's very kind, but I wouldn't want to impose. I'm sure I'll meet them in time if fate allows." He then added pointedly, "Adana didn't mention you rising this early usually. Is she nearby?" He looked around, hoping Adana might appear and ease the sudden tension he felt. Amarachi's eyes flashed. She hadn't expected him to deflect so easily. "No, my sister is at home. I thought I'd fetch water in her place today, give her a rest." It was a lie. Adana was actually at home preparing vegetables for dinner, oblivious to this meeting. Amarachi inched even closer to Obi. "I must say, Obi, our village can be dull. It's nice to see a fresh face. Perhaps tomorrow I'll come to the stream instead of Adana, and you can tell me more of your travels." Obi felt a pang of discomfort. There was an intensity in Amarachi's gaze that unsettled him. This was the same young woman who hurt Adana before. He could sense the same energy now. He took a respectful step back. "I actually may not be at the stream for a few days," he lied gently. "My kinsmen need me to help with some work." Amarachi's smile faltered. She knew a polite brush-off when she heard one. She had hoped to learn more by engaging him, but Obi was cautious. Still, she wasn't deterred. She decided to press once more, testing him. "I understand. Before you go, may I ask, have we met before? You seem familiar. Almost like someone I've heard of." She eyed him for any telltale reaction. Obi's heart skipped. Did she guess his identity? He maintained a calm expression. "I don't believe we have met, Amarachi. If we had, I'm sure I would not forget." He gave a courteous nod. "It's getting late, I should return now. Please give my greetings to Adana." With that, Obi excused himself. Amarachi watched him disappear down the path, her suspicions stronger than ever. There was something regal in his bearing that was hard to hide. Could it truly be the prince? She wondered. If so, Adana had unwittingly ensnared a prince's heart. And if Amarachi could steal the prince for herself, it would be the ultimate triumph over her sister. As twilight fell, Amarachi returned home to find Adana humming happily as she prepared the evening meal. Adana looked up and said, "There you are. I was wondering where you went. Could you pass me the salt and so?" Using an affectionate term for sister. Amarachi forced a smile and helped with the cooking, but her mind was elsewhere. She decided she needed confirmation of Obi's true identity, and she knew just how to get it. The next day, Amarachi paid a visit to En's Oma, one of the royal palace servants who occasionally bought vegetables from the twins' mother. With a bit of friendly chatter, Amarachi inquired about the upcoming royal events. En's Oma revealed excitedly that the Igui was planning the annual New Yam Festival, which would be held in 2 weeks' time. "It will be a grand celebration," he exclaimed. "The Igui's son, Prince Obina, will make a public appearance. In fact, rumor has it that the prince has been mingling with the people lately in disguise to find a bride who truly loves him." He chuckled. "The prince is clever. Many a maiden will be surprised." Amarachi's heart thudded. The rumors were true then. Prince Obina was searching incognito. As En's Oma rambled on about the festival preparations, Amarachi's eyes narrowed in determination. She felt a mix of awe and burning ambition. Adana has unknowingly caught a prince. All of Amarachi's jealousy and desire for status flared brighter. She resolved that by the festival's time, she would position herself as the prince's chosen bride, not Adana. In the days that followed, Amarachi set her plot in motion. She was unusually kind and attentive to Adana, pretending as if she had turned over a new leaf. Adana was pleasantly surprised. Her twin seemed to finally be warming to her again. Amarachi even helped Adana pick out the best clay beads and colorful wraps for the upcoming New Yam festival, insisting, "We must look our best, sister. It's a celebration for the whole village." Adana smiled, hopeful that perhaps the rift between them was healing. Meanwhile, Prince Obinna had been called back to the palace by his father Igwe Akpara, who was unaware of his son's secret romance but eager to arrange the festival. Before leaving, Obi managed to send a message to Adana through a trusted palace guard who also knew him well. The guard delivered a simple note to Adana one afternoon while she sold mats at the market. The note read, "Meet me by the old Udala tree at dusk." Obi. Adana's heart leapt. She snuck away in the late evening and found Obi waiting beneath the old Udala, the orange fruits overhead glowing in the sunset light. He was dressed a bit finer than usual, still not in royal attire, but a crisp clean shirt of deep blue and a carved walking stick by his side. Adana sensed a formality as if he had come to discuss something serious. They embraced gently. "I missed our mornings," Adana whispered, looking up at him. Obi smiled tenderly and took both her hands in his. "As did I. My father has kept me busy. He's preparing something big for the village." Adana nodded. "The New Yam festival, I heard. Will be grand to see. We give thanks for the harvest and celebrate community." She loved the festival time. Dances, masquerades, feasting on roasted yam with palm oil, and the whole village in joyous mood. Obi hesitated, then spoke earnestly. "Adana, I have something to tell you, and to ask you." His sudden seriousness made her heart flutter with anxiety. "What is it?" she asked. Obi took a breath. He realized this was the moment to reveal his true identity, but he feared how she might react. Would she feel betrayed that he hadn't told her? Nonetheless, he steadied himself. He wanted to be honest now. "Adana, my full name isn't just Obi. Sobina. I am Igwe Akpara's son." He searched her eyes as the words sank in. "I am the Prince of Amek." Adana's eyes widened. She opened her mouth but no sound came out at first. The gentle, humble Obi she had fallen in love with was the prince? She remembered all the small signs. His refined accent, his courteous manners, the way Enzoma, whom she'd seen him greet once, bowed slightly to him even in plain clothes. It all added up now. Adana felt a mix of astonishment, disbelief, and a touch of fear. She instinctively released his hands and stepped back, bowing her head. "Your Highness." "I don't understand," she stammered, suddenly formal. Obi, Prince Obinna, immediately closed the space and gently lifted her chin. "No, please, it's just me, the same person you met by the stream," he said, his voice pleading. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I wanted you to know me as I am, not as a prince. Can you forgive me?" Adana's heart raced. She looked into his eyes. Those were the same kind eyes of the man who saved her water pot from falling, who listened to her worries, who laughed with her in the mornings. She realized she was trembling. "I forgive you," she said softly. "It's just a lot. I never dreamed." Obinna let out a breath of relief and wrapped her in a comforting embrace. She relaxed against him. After a moment, he spoke quietly. "Adana, the reason I told you now is because at the New Yam festival, my father expects me to announce my choice of bride." He felt her stiffen slightly in his arms and continued, "I have not told him yet, but I will only choose the woman I love, and that is you, Adana." Adana gasped, pulling back enough to search his face. "Me? But I'm just a village girl. What will the Igwe in the village say?" Her mind swirled with the implications. A prince marrying a commoner, though it wasn't unheard of if the prince insisted. She knew many highborn families might oppose it at first. Obinna cupped her face in his palms gently. "You are not just anything. You are the woman who taught me how sweet and genuine love can be. I have seen your heart, and it is more precious than any title. If my father has any sense, he will see it too. And if he objects," Obinna smiled wryly, "well, I have been known to be stubborn. I would argue with the king himself for your hand." A tear slipped down Adana's cheek, which Obinna wiped away with his thumb. Obinna. "I love you," she whispered, finally allowing the truth in her heart to be spoken aloud. "I would be honored to be chosen by you. I love you not for being a prince but for the man you are. Yet I fear. I fear I am stepping into a world I know little of. He shook his head. We'll step into it together. You will never be alone in it. From a pocket in his tunic, Obinna pulled out a small object, a delicate bracelet strung with coral beads, the deep red-orange kind that only the royal family and nobility wore for special occasions. Each bead was etched with a tiny pattern of a rising sun. Adana recognized it as something very precious. Her hands trembled as he placed it in her palm. Wear this at the New Yam festival, he said. It is a token of my love and a sign so that I may know you in the crowd when it's time for me to declare my bride. I will look for these beads on your wrist. Adana tried to protest that such precious jewelry shouldn't be hers, but Obinna insisted. It belonged to my mother, he explained softly. She told me to give it one day to the woman who truly wins my heart. Overwhelmed and joyful, Adana allowed him to tie the coral bead bracelet around her wrist. It glowed in the fading light like captured sunlight. They shared a long, sweet embrace, and before parting, a gentle kiss under the udala tree that sent Adana's spirit soaring. They agreed to keep their love secret for just a bit longer, until the festival where all would be revealed. Neither noticed the shadow slinking away into the bushes. Amarachi had been eavesdropping from behind the tree grove. She had followed Adana, hoping to confirm her suspicions. Now, having heard everything, her blood roared in her ears. Adana and the prince in love? A royal bracelet given as a token? Amarachi's fingernails dug into her palms. Envy, disbelief, and rage warred within her, but then solidified into cold, sharp determination. Amarachi knew what she had to do. She would not let Adana walk away with this glorious fate. If the prince would recognize his chosen bride by a coral bracelet, then Amarachi decided she must have it instead. Adana doesn't deserve this, she lied to herself. It should be me. I will be the princess. In the dark of that night, Amarachi snuck to Adana's bedside while her twins slept, the moonlight filtering through the window. There, on Adana's gentle wrist, was the coral bead bracelet, faintly glowing with a ruddy hue. Ever so delicately, Amarachi loosened it and slipped it off. Adana, exhausted from the emotions of the evening, did not wake. Clutching the bracelet, Amarachi felt a triumphant thrill. The next morning, Adana awoke to find the bracelet gone. She searched her mat and the floor in a panic. What are you looking for? Amarachi asked from the doorway, feigning innocence while tension coiled in her gut. I had a bracelet. I must have misplaced it, Adana said, trying not to sound too desperate. She dared not mention it was from the prince or its significance, even to her sister. Amarachi pretended to help look, but of course it was futile. Adana's eyes welled with tears she hid from Amarachi. What would she do? How would Obinna find her in the crowd without the bracelet? The festival was that very day. With a forced hopeful voice, Amarachi consoled her. Don't worry, sister. I'm sure it'll turn up. Perhaps it fell outside. But for now, let's get ready for the New Yam festival. We can't be late, it's going to be a day to remember. Her words held a secret double meaning. The New Yam festival dawned bright and vibrant in Amak. By midday, the village square was transformed into a carnival of culture and joy. Colorful banners of woven raffia and cloth hung from tall poles. The aroma of roasted yams, spicy pepper soup, and fresh palm wine filled the air. Villagers poured in from all corners of the region, dressed in their finest traditional attires. Women in bright George wrappers with coral bead necklaces, men in embroidered ISI Agu shirts, patterned with lion heads, and red chiefs' caps. Drummers beat a lively rhythm on the Igba drums, and masquerades in elaborate costumes danced, entertaining laughing children. Adana and Amarachi arrived with their parents and took their place among the gathering. Adana looked beautiful yet simple. She wore a deep blue wrapper with subtle floral patterns and a matching blouse Mama Ifioma had sewn. She had tied a string of fresh hibiscus flowers in her hair. But her wrist was bare where the coral bracelet should have been, and behind her polite smile, her heart pounded with anxiety and confusion about its disappearance. Amarachi, meanwhile, shone in a bright crimson dress with gold accents that she had persuaded her mother to tailor for her. On her wrist, hidden partly by her blouse sleeve, she wore the coral bead bracelet. She kept it covered, planning to reveal it at just the right moment. Her face was a picture of confidence and anticipation. Trumpets sounded and a hush fell. The Igwe Akpara emerged, carried on a carved palanquin and accompanied by a retinue of titled elders, warriors, and drummers. The Igwe was an imposing yet grandfatherly figure, in flowing royal robes of velvet and a crown of eagle feathers and coral beads. Behind him, walking proudly, was Prince Obinna. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd as many realized this was their first clear look at the prince in years. Prince Obinna was magnificent in his full regalia. He wore a rich crimson Isi Agu tunic embroidered with a pattern of lions, signifying strength. Across his chest and shoulders hung strands of large coral beads that glimmered in the sun, matching the ones around his wrists. A finely woven cap with a short feather sat on his head. Yet for all the splendor, his expression was anxious as his eyes scanned the crowd. He was searching fervently for Adana. Adana's breath caught when she saw him in his royal attire. It was truly Obinna, yet somehow he seemed almost another person amidst the pomp, a prince of the blood. She suddenly felt shy and uncertain, blending into the crowd rather than coming forward. She wanted to wave or call out, but such behavior in a formal event would be improper. Instead, she watched, heart in her throat, hoping he would spot her. If only I had the bracelet, she thought with despair. The festival proceeded with lively performances. After the Igui made a welcome speech and blessed the new yam harvest, by symbolically cutting open a roasted yam tuber and offering some to the ancestors, there were traditional dances. Adana tried to push through closer to the front, but the crowd was thick. Amarachi stuck close by, gripping Adana's hand as if in sisterly excitement, but in truth to keep her from moving too far ahead. At last came the moment everyone had been waiting for. The Igui raised his hand for silence and announced, "Today is not only a day to thank the gods for a bountiful harvest, but also to look to the future of our community. My son, Prince Obinna, has something to share." Obinna stepped forward. Despite his confident stance, he felt his heart hammering. He had locked onto Amarachi and Adana's general area, but in the glare of midday sun, and with them half obscured by others, he hadn't clearly seen them yet. However, he did catch a glimpse of what looked like the coral bracelet, on a wrist raised momentarily. There, he thought with relief, spotting the distinct orange-red beads. They were up front, only a few rows back. Obinna smiled as he began to speak, believing his beloved stood there. "In the past weeks," Prince Obinna addressed the crowd, "I have walked among you not as a prince, but as one of you, to understand and to find a connection that goes beyond titles. In doing so, I was blessed to meet a woman of great virtue, kindness, and beauty of spirit." A wave of chatter swept the square. Maidens blushed and whispered, each hoping he meant them. Amarachi squeezed Adana's hand tightly, nearly trembling with anticipation. Adana looked at her twin in puzzlement. Why was Amarachi shaking? She still had no inkling of Amarachi's scheme or that the bracelet was right now on Amarachi's arm, hidden. Prince Obinna continued, his voice ringing out, "Today I wish to publicly acknowledge that connection. Father, elders, people of Amake, I have found someone I love, and if it pleases the gods and you all, I intend to make her my wife." The crowd erupted in murmurs of surprise and joy. Such a romantic revelation at the festival. Igui Akpara, also taken aback by the unexpected announcement, for his son had told him only last night he had chosen but hadn't said who, nonetheless smiled to see his son speak with such heartfelt conviction. He gestured for Obinna to proceed. Obinna took a decorated staff and lifted it, a sign that he was about to indicate his choice. His eyes again sought the coral bracelet in the throng. Now Amarachi seized her chance. She abruptly let go of Adana's hand and stepped forward out of the crowd, boldly pushing her way to the front with a feigned air of excitement. As she did, she let her sleeve slide back, displaying the coral bracelet on her slender wrist for the prince to see. Adana was momentarily startled. "Amarachi, where are you?" she called, but her voice was drowned in the gasps as people saw one of the beautiful twin daughters of Ikin step forward. Some villagers smiled, assuming Adana was stepping forth, for from a distance it was hard to tell the twins apart, especially since Amarachi now stood with confidence while Adana hung back in confusion. Prince Obinna's eyes locked on the bracelet gleaming on Amarachi's arm. He couldn't clearly see the face from where he stood atop the dais, but the bracelet was unmistakable. Relief and joy flooded him. He raised his hand and declared, "Adana, come forward." A collective, "Oh," went through the crowd. Papa Ikin and Mama Ifioma were astonished. Had the prince just called their daughter? Papa Ikin puffed with pride and started to step forward to encourage Adana, but Mama Ifioma squinted. Something felt off in a mother's intuition. Why did the daughter who stepped out seem a bit more stiff in posture? Was that truly Adana or? Amarachi, hearing the prince call Adana's name, felt a twist in her stomach. But she steeled herself. He thought she was Adana. That was enough. She lifted her chin and ascended the steps toward Prince Obinna with a graceful sway, trying to mimic her sister's gentle demeanor. The bracelet caught the sunlight, a beacon of her deception. Adana stood frozen a few yards back, heart plummeting. She realized two things in a crushing instant. Amarachi had stolen the bracelet, and now Amarachi was taking her place before the prince. Shock and heartbreak paralyzed her. It was a nightmare come true, the same betrayal as with Chaik but far worse this time. Tears pricked her eyes. Prince Obina stepped down from the dais to meet Amarachi halfway, still smiling warmly, though as he got closer a small frown of uncertainty tugged at his brow. Something in Adana's eyes was different. And why did she wear a crimson dress? He had expected the deep blue outfit Adana mentioned she might wear. And where was the dove pendant he carved? He saw no necklace on her. He whispered, "Adana?" Amarachi nodded quickly, avoiding too much eye contact by bowing her head shyly to conceal any telltale difference. She spoke softly, trying to imitate Adana's tone, "Yes, my prince." It took all her willpower to keep her voice steady and sweet. The crowd cheered, thinking a romantic union was about to be sealed. The Igui beamed, and the drummers prepared a celebratory beat. But Prince Obina's instincts nagged at him. Up close, he now saw that Amarachi's features, though identical, had subtle distinctions. The way she smiled did not dimple her left cheek as Adana's did, and there was a small beauty mark near her right ear that he didn't recall on Adana. His heart lurched. This might not be his beloved at all. To buy time, Obina gently took Amarachi's hand. She practically glowed at his touch, while he felt a strange chill. He turned to the audience and announced formally, "Behold, the one who has captured my heart." But even as he said it, his eyes darted among the onlookers. In the sea of faces he finally spotted Adana. She had pushed through to the front now, desperation on her tearful face. Their eyes met, and Obina felt a surge of certainty. There was the woman he loved, standing stricken in blue with flowers in her hair, empty-handed and confused. Chaos threatened to erupt in Obina's mind, but he steadied himself. Keeping Amarachi's hand only loosely, he addressed the elders. "According to our custom, I must prove that this woman is worthy and that our bond is true. We will answer any question of character if need be." This was a stalling tactic. Some Igbo communities had a tradition of elders or family questioning a betrothed couple to ensure they knew each other and were of good character. Sure enough, one elder woman, Mama Chinidu, stepped forward with a grin. She loved a bit of drama. "My prince," she called, "we must ask, by what sign do you know this girl loves you truly and not your title? We would hear from her own mouth what she treasures about you." Amarachi's eyes widened. This wasn't expected. She hadn't even had a real conversation with the prince as himself, let alone developed feelings. But she quickly composed herself. Before she could speak, Obina gently interjected, "Allow us a moment, wise one." "She is shy." He then leaned to